Apart from the F4EJ Kai and the JA-37 Viggen, the other big boy added to War Thunder in the Direct Up update was the MiG-27M, armed with a hard-hitting 30mm rotator cannon, which may hit towards the A-10 coming in the next update, as well as the all-aspect R-60M missiles. Is the MiG-27 a potent aircraft in War Thunder, especially at its top-tier battle rating of 11.0? Well, that's what I'm going to try to answer in this video. But it's important to remember that the MiG-27 is a ground attack aircraft, and as a result, has some distinct changes compared to its younger brother, the MiG-23. For example, the MiG-27M changes its nose and ditches the radar found in the MiG-23. Instead, the nose of the aircraft was used to house a laser television sighting system, which allowed the MiG-27M to carry laser-guided munitions. Without spoiling the upcoming video, the MiG-27M gets rid of some of the fighter capabilities of the MiG-23 and trades it for a better ground attack status. Considering top tier CAS is pretty dead, should you actually grind out the MiG-27, or should you just stick with the MiG-23? Alright lads, welcome to another one of my Tech Tree vehicle reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at the MiG-27M. This is a Rank 7 battle rating 11.0 ground attack aircraft found in the USSR Tech Tree. To unlock this jet, you're going to have to grind out 390,000 RP points before purchasing the vehicle for a cost of 1,060,000 Silver Lions. After unlocking this plane, you'll have to put it in your lineup for the cost of 300,000 Silver Lions. And with all top tier jets, I would highly recommend purchasing the Expert, if not the Ace qualification, costing 1,060,000 Silver Lions for the former and 3,000 Golden Eagles for the latter. Currently, just a few days after the plane has been released in the update, its repair cost in realistic battles is 7,522 Silver Lions. As always, this may go up in the future. In terms of the rewards, and in realistic battles with a premium account, you can expect an RP modifier of 476% and a Silver Line modifier of 420%. In terms of customisations, there is a single Golden Eagle camouflage available to purchase. So lads, even though the MiG-27 touts some pretty fancy laser designated weapons, as well as a fast firing 30mm cannon, is it even worth grinding? Well, stick around to find out.
That he was the coolest thing. He thought he was just rock and roll with all those cassettes.
The Soviets had tried to create a ground strike version of the MiG-23, but in tests, these proved unsatisfactory. The MiG-27 was a development of the MiG-23 airframe. This means that they share quite a lot of characteristics. Starting with the engine, both jets feature the Tomansky R29 engine. However, the MiG-27 features the B variant. Both the MiG-23 and MiG-27 produce the same amount of power at military output, 7,950 kg of thrust. However, when the MiG-27 is afterburning, it produces 10,210 kg of thrust, whereas the MiG-23M, the fighter variant of this airframe, has an afterburning output of 10,490 kg of thrust. This isn't much, but it does add up to quite a big difference. If we compare the stats of both aircraft, you can see that the MiG-23M has a climb rate of 169.9 meters per second, whereas the 27M can only achieve 154.9 meters per second. This lower climb rate is mainly due to the plane being a little bit heavier due to the mainly 30mm gun, as well as that slight lack in engine power. Regardless to say though, neither the MiG-23 or the MiG-27 could really be considered powerhouses in War Thunder. None of the Soviet jets really have great acceleration, but what they do have is good top speed and retention. The MiG-27 has a top speed of 2,358 km per hour at an altitude of 13,000 meters. Near sea level, this speed is obviously much lower, and you aren't quick enough to outrun Phantoms, or pretty much any other jet. The MiGs are fast, but you will be run down by Phantoms, as well as F-104s. Let's now talk about the MiG-27 and MiG-23's party piece, that being the variable swept wing. When the wings are swept fully back, the MiG-27 does have a very good roll rate, as well as high speed retention of energy. This is both a good and a bad thing. When you're diving or going in a straight line, you will retain energy quite a lot. However, if you have your wings swept all the way back and try to turn, the wings will essentially act like a delta wing, causing huge amounts of drag. However, if we put the wings all the way forward, basically giving us a straight wing like an early prop, you will have the best turn rate in the game, at least for jets. While the slow speed manoeuvrability of the MiG-27 is impressive, if you're at slow speed in a top tier jet match, you're pretty much dead. You're just going to get shot by some rando firing an AM-9J from 10 km away. Just like with all the other Phantoms and every other jet in War Thunder at top tier, always try to stay fast. That pretty much covers it for the performance of the MiG-27. It isn't great by any means, but it's no means bad. It's pretty boring when it comes to its top speed, performance, and roll rate to be honest. There's nothing really stand out about the MiG-27. In real life, the MiG-23 chassis was designed to be an interceptor, so take off, climb, fire missiles, and then come back to air base. And you know, the MiG-27 was designed as a ground strike fighter, so manoeuvrability isn't exactly in the design specification. But where this plane really does shine is its air-to-air and air-to-ground weapon loadouts, which we'll cover now. We now come on to the weaponry of the MiG-27, and seeing that this vehicle is a ground strike aircraft, you can be sure that we're in for some good weapons. But first things first, I said at the beginning of this video that the nose of the MiG-27 has an optically guided system, rather than a radar. This means that the MiG-27 does not feature a radar, which is a negative at top tier. While it's not a major issue for arcade and realistic battles, it is a major downside for any sim players out there. It also means that the MiG-27 does not have the ability to fire any semi-active radar homing missiles, such as the NATO Sparrows. But cracking on with it, the stock gun on the MiG-27 is the 30mm GSH 6-30 cannon. You carry a total of 300 rounds and a fire rate of 5,000 rounds per minute, meaning you will have to be very disciplined with your shots. The 30mm gun also has an ammunition belt of ground targets, which features an armor-piercing high explosive round, capable of penetrating 65mm of armor. Being APHE, it means the projectile will penetrate an enemy vehicle before detonating, giving you massive post-penetration damage. You can also carry gun pods, in the form of the 23mm Soviet guns. While they aren't the best in the game, they do have substantially more ammunition than the 30mm gun. However, I can't recommend using these gun pods. You also get a selection of dumbfire weaponry on the MiG-27, including the OFAB 100 bombs, which will destroy any vehicle in the radius of 4 meters, the FAB 250M bombs, which will destroy any vehicle in the radius of 10 meters, as well as the FAB 500M bomb, which will destroy any vehicle within the radius of 14 meters. While these bombs are powerful if you can actually land one, trying to carry out bombing targets at Mach 1 plus speed isn't particularly practicable. And in top tier ground forces battles, you won't really ever get close enough to the battlefield to actually drop bombs accurately. We also have a selection of dumbfire rockets. We have the S5KPs. These travel at 480 meters per second, making them rather slow. They also contain a measly explosive mass of 0.44 kilograms, and while they do have a very good 250mm of penetration, their post-penetration damage effect is pretty low. Things do slightly improve with the S8KO rockets. These contain 1.69 kilograms of TNT and penetrate 420mm of armor. But again, the post-penetration damage isn't amazing, whereas the previous two missiles use a high explosive anti-tank warhead to do the damage. The S-24B rockets contain purely high explosive. This gives them a constant 80mm of explosive penetration, and will destroy pretty much any vehicle with a direct hit. However, these rockets are incredibly large compared to the other two rockets, and you can only carry a very small amount of them. We also have a selection of guided munitions with the MiG-27. We have the CAB 500 bombs. These are TV guided and contain 160 kilograms of TNT, giving them very good explosive penetration. These weapons essentially act like TV guided JDAMs. But instead of using GPS, they use an optical guidance system built into the bombs themselves. This means you designate an impact point, drop the bomb, and the bomb will guide itself onto that impact point. It's worth noting, however, these are not smart munitions. You cannot track onto a single tank. You can only track onto a specific point on a map. Do not be fooled by the TV guidance. These are essentially just dumbfire bombs, which guide themselves onto a specific point on the map. Once you launch them, there is nothing you can do to change where they fall. And it's pretty much the same thing for our next two types of weapons. Both the KH-25 and the KH-29 are laser guided rockets. The 25 contains 120 kilos of TNT, giving it 100mm of explosive penetration, whereas the 29 contains 150 kilos of TNT, giving it 103mm of explosive penetration. After going into the TV guidance system by pressing the V key on most keyboards, you can then lock up a target to designate with your laser designator. You then fire this rocket, and the rocket will guide itself onto the target. Just like how the Sparrows require a constant radar lock to fire, the KH-25 and the KH-29 require a constant laser designator until they hit the target. This leaves you extremely vulnerable when you are laser designating a target, as you have to keep your nose relatively level and travelling relatively straight towards your target, making you an easy target once again for ADATSs and other top tier air defense systems. We have one last air-to-ground weapon system, this being the KH-29T. These are similar to the KH-29L, but they feature a TV guidance system, like the earlier KAB 500 bombs. They contain the same 149 kilos of TNT, giving it 103mm of explosive penetration. However, with these rockets, once you've designated a target and then launched, you can turn away from the battlefield, and the rockets will guide themselves in using the TV weapon system. But once again, these rockets will not track an individual tank. They will travel to the point that you designate on the map. It's hard to explain how to use these missiles, but they were designed in real life to target buildings and static objects which aren't moving and don't require pinpoint accuracy. These types of weapons are best dropped on capture points and other large traffic areas, rather than dropping on individual tanks, as if a tank moves, you will not get a kill. We now come on to the air-to-air missiles, and up first, we have the R13M1. These are essentially early II guided weapons. They have a real aspect lock range of 5.5 kilometers and a maximum overload of 20 Gs, which isn't actually too bad. We then also have the R60M air-to-air missiles, which have recently been introduced to the game. While most of the Soviet helicopters have had these missiles for well over 2 years, the R60Ms only came to EUR-RB in the last update. While the standard R60 has been found on most of the MiG-21s in game, the M variant is new to the MiG-23 and the MiG-27. The M variant has been given to these aircraft, as they were the weakest performing jets at top tier. The M variant essentially gives the R60 all aspect capabilities, meaning it can be fired at all angles of attack. When firing from behind, it has a lock range of 5 kilometers, but it has an all aspect lock range of 2 kilometers. While this does seem pretty overpowered, being able to fire a missile at people from any direction, 2 kilometers in War Thunder is pretty small, especially when both you and an enemy are travelling towards each other at above Mach 0.1. It will only give you a very short window to actually fire a missile in the head on. It's also worth noting that the R60Ms are very weak to flares. An enemy flaring will pretty much defeat this missile instantly. If you are going up against a MiG-23 or a MiG-27, and you're worried about they're going to fire an R60 at you, from any angle, just launch flares and cut your afterburner, and you will easily defeat the missile. Before we get started in the review, let me know down below what you guys think about the MiG-27M, and what plane, tank or ship you guys would like to see reviewed next in War Thunder. In my opinion, the MiG-27M is a good addition to War Thunder, however it does not challenge the top tier meta at all. Many of the additions of the MiG-27s are larger gimmicks. The laser and TV guided weaponry are cool and all, but serve no real purpose in close air support roles. Anyone serious about close air support in the Soviet tech tree, either grinding out the Ki-52 or the Mi-28N is probably a far better choice, albeit a lot slower. And the same thing can be said for the R60Ms, to be honest. While I did think they would be quite powerful, after playing a few games I quickly realised that it's largely just a gimmick as well. The all aspect lock capability is handy, especially when opponents are travelling at slow speeds, but pretty much all top tier missiles easily finish off enemies when they're travelling slowly. If an enemy is travelling slowly or is unaware of their surroundings, then they are easy to get kills with. But any enemy that sees you launch a missile can simply just pop flares and do a slight turn and is easily dodged the R60. The R60's relative weakness to flares, as well as the ability that the MiG-27 can only carry 4 of these missiles compared to the MiG-23's 6, leaves the MiG-27 feeling like a major side grade to the MiG-23. This is by no means unexpected though, as the MiG-27 is a ground strike aircraft, not a dedicated fighter, and shouldn't be thought of or played as such. So, should you grind the MiG-27M? I'm going to say no. If you already have the MiG-21 BIS or the MiG-23, and you mainly focus on air-to-air combat, then there's not really any reason to play the MiG-27. If you do want a good CAS aircraft, and you don't have the top tier Soviet helicopters, then maybe the MiG-27 is a good grind. But for someone like me that's been playing War for a long time, and has pretty much every vehicle in the game of every nation, the Mi-28 and Ki-52s are just a lot more flexible, especially in tank battles, and as I've said now several times, the unique items on the MiG-27M are largely just gimmicks. Do you need the MiG-27 to fit into the current meta of War Thunder? No. Is the MiG-27 a good and fun plane to fly? Yes. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching this video, and if you did enjoy this video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. Once again, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.